What's going on YouTube? Welcome to another portrait painting tutorial. As for your request last time, this time we will focus on how to paint dark skin tones. Whatever the skin tone complexion is, always remember everyone that the same palette, the same type of mixtures is going to be the same for anyone all around the world. It's just a different combination of the same colors. That being said, we're working on a linen on wood panel. So I didn't tone it. I haven't toned any canvases in a while. So we're just going to work on a wet tone. So this is Ultramarine Blue, white, and a little bit of Cadmium Red, which gives us a nice warm gray. This is odorless mineral spirits that I used here. And now we're going to go ahead and start painting something. But we are working on an active tone, which means it is a wet tone. So hey there, Volker. Good afternoon. Thanks for watching from Germany. Hey, Barbara. Oh, wow, you are awake early. It's 7 in the morning for you. Thanks for joining. So our drawing color is just a nice and simple brown, most likely just the same ultramarine blue and probably cadmium orange or cadmium red. You may have already seen on the thumbnail, well, if you're watching, you already saw the thumbnail, excuse me, of what this painting is going to look like. But this is the direction that we're heading in, and we're going to get there in about 1 hour and 8 minutes from now. So what I'm doing is I'm establishing basically the outside silhouette. I'm deciding the placement. Right now I'm more focused with placement than anything else. Using a size 4 bristle brush. This is a filbert bristle brush. I typically like to work with filberts. So an idea of where the top and the bottom of the head are going to fit. Some little shapes there are giving me the positioning of the eye sockets relative to the nose. The main triangle is the two eyes and the nose. Connect the dots. You have a triangle. That is your main triangle. And it's more important to establish that earlier on. It's just easier. It's more efficient. Hey, Rob. Welcome, welcome. Now, since we're going to be focusing more with color mixtures with this one, you typically want to work on a gray tone, ideally a grayed tone, something that's kind of gray. The reason is that skin colors, no matter what the ethnicity or what the skin complexion, no matter where in the world you are, the skin color is going to be some type of pinkish orangey, and it all depends really on the light conditions on how different it will be. But typically, the gray is nice because your warms are let's say your warms look warm and your cools look cool relative to one another. Your lights look like lights and your darks look like darks with a neutral gray value. So now that we've established the placement of the head, now very quickly on, we're going to start to draw with a little more specificity using color. So now that's ultramarine blue and Indian yellow, which is going to give us a nice kind of dull brown that we're adding a little more green to. We added some green and ultramarine blue. So it's going to be kind of like a brownish violet. Now, I did say that you can get most skin complexions, or let's say all skin complexions with the same palettes. You don't need a palette for a specific skin complexion because our skin color is really not as different as one may think. The light condition on this one, I decided to go towards the cool. So you'll notice a blue light start to kind of show eventually. So you see that this is a cool, a very, very bluish type of lighting on the model here. So that's why we're starting off with some of the, let's say a little bit more towards the blue kind of shadows. Hey Steven, thanks for watching from the UK. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope you are well. And the key here is efficiency for most of these demos. I'm not trying to take up all your time. So these demos they are still real time. And like I said before, um, I am trying to deliberately paint a little bit more loose, a little bit more free these days, and more efficiently for that matter. I'm not trying to dress up the paintings to make them look that way. I'm actually trying to paint that way. So it's more fun and interactive to watch, hopefully. And now we're filling in some dark for the hair. So we're going for the darks really quickly. Eventually, I do notice that the back of the head needs to be a little bit further out. So eventually we'll push that out. Um, hey, Lucas. Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, definitely. If you enjoy this stream, please like the video or just leave a comment, just say hello. Anything that will help the live stream reach a more broad audience. We're filling in some darks for the hair very early. With all of these demos, I do intend to start them and finish them all within the same day, within about an hour. So I'm going in much more much more freely. It starts off a little more warm and then it cools off. There you see some ultramarine blue. So remember the mixtures here are no more complicated than Dioxazine purple and Indian yellow. Remember that yellow and purple are complements. They neutralize each other, so they kill each other off. And then what you have is a nice kind of neutral brown. And it depends. You get a different kind of neutral brown from different complementaries. So orange and blue will give you a different one than red and green. But in this case, purple and yellow is going to give you a nicer skin complexity that leans toward a little bit of the violet. So that's why I chose it, because there is a violet in the mixture. Hey Shavu, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I managed to survive all the holidays, the holiday the illnesses and stuff. I mean, I was a little under the weather for a bit, but not so bad. But it was tough. Everybody was sick. Like almost everyone I know had some kind of cold. Some of them had the corona. It was just, man, it was wild. Hey, Lou, thanks for watching from India. So we decided to push the back of the skull a little bit further out. As you see there, I noticed it. I noticed I had it a little bit too compressed. Now we're going to start to push some color in towards the skin tone. There we have orange. Where there is orange, there will probably be blue. So cadmium orange or not. There's going to be purple in it and yellow. Interesting. So purple and yellow. So orange, purple, and yellow. So at this point, I already know that the highlights are going to get cooler, meaning more towards the blue and green. So I went in, I think deliberately with more, let's see if that remained there. Hey Rakesh, thanks for watching from India. So we have already established our first color relationship, and let's see if that remains in the final result. And we'll do a side by side so you can see it. And it's there, it's vaguely there. The edge of the nose is not going to be that warm in the end relative to the light there. So it is there, but it's more subtle with the final result. And this is what you were asking for. These skin complexions, again, no different. It's just you're using the mixtures, the colors a little bit. So the colors are the same that you use, but they're just different ratios. So for example, there's just less white, there's less yellow, there's less orange, and so remember, Dioxazine purple, Indian yellow, cadmium orange, ultramarine blue, and white is what can obtain these skin mixtures that you see there. Let's see. Hey, Sharaith Hager. Sorry I mispronounced your name. Thanks for watching from North Carolina. Not too far away from me. I'm in Virginia. Hey, Jedapu. Oh, I'm glad you made it to the live stream. Oh, good, good. I'm glad that you enjoy watching the paintings develop. All right, awesome. We got our first question from Rob. Are the shadows darker on darker skin or are they similar to light skin? I will tell you that they are all of our skin, like if you take every single person in human history and you just take their local skin color and you make a strip of let's just say a value scale, we're not that different. So all skin colors, believe it or not, are not that different. So that includes the shadows. The shadows are not that different. So when you have darker skin and you have lighter skin, there really isn't a difference. The only thing is that you use less of the lighter colors on your palette. And chiaroscuro, which can be attributed all the way back to Caravaggio, the Caravagistes. Well, back then, it would be lighter skin against dark background. That's chiaroscuro. However, with darker skin, chiaroscuro is the same thing. It would just be reversed. So we're going to get darker skin across from a lighter background in order to have the most dramatic contrast. So the same, just different ratios. Hey Janice. Oh yeah, yeah, I have a neighbor. I mean, probably 100 miles, maybe 200 or so miles, but not that far. So now that we're filling out these values, the strategy here for the painting, for anyone that may be new to this, to how I paint, new to this process, the strategy is that this painting, the purpose is that this painting will be posted on my Instagram. So it'll be linked in the description box of the video. The Instagram will be linked in the description box of the video. And you will be able to recreate this painting on your own. I recommend that you pause it from time to time. The video isn't that long. It's about an hour, 8 minutes, an hour, 9 minutes. And it's something for you to have at home or in your studio for you to recreate. And I will be selling all these paintings eventually, once I have enough inventory. Hey, Canvas Dancer, skin tones are all relative. Yep, yep. Thanks for watching from Minnesota. Is it cold over there? Kind of cold over here too, but not that cold. Yes, skin tones are all relative. All colors are all relative to one another. Now you see that I'm putting in the chiaroscuro effect. So the light against dark, and the dark of the skin color will actually get darker than that. So I think I started off probably a little light. Hey Rakesh. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that comment. I'm glad that I'm helpful for learning painting. Now take a minute to check out the palette. Let me take off the chat box for a second, and take a look at the palette. See how there's a mixture or there's a flow from light to dark. That wasn't intentional, but that's just something that I have developed over time that I do that kind of gradation. And again, if you want to learn how to do that even more, definitely check out my online classes because I have a whole lesson dedicated to that. My Monday lessons are for absolute beginners to intermediate, and my Friday lessons are for intermediate to advanced. Susan, let's see. Welcome, welcome. If you're painting a portrait in a grayscale, should the black be a mixture of blue and black in the grayscale? Should not be black and white? Well, it depends. I mean, there's a type of underpainting called a verdaccio, which is done with a greenish underpainting. The theory behind that is that it complements like the kind of like the red, the blood color, like the reddish, the blood red in the skin tone. That's why there's a green verdaccio. But the verdaccio underpaintings in the past were more because glazing had to be a thing because the color wasn't as broad as the color that we have now. In antiquity, yeah, they did have say vermilion, which is a nice and rich red. They had Naples yellow, which is somewhat similar to our cadmium yellow. So they had a strong green, but they didn't quite have as much violet unless they mixed lapis lazuli with alizarin, and I believe they had cobalts back then. But in general, underpaintings were used in the past to build up color because their color wasn't that intense. They didn't have like the advanced chemistry that we have these days. But if you're going to do an underpainting and you want to do a verdaccio, Susan, my best advice to you would be to use raw umber greenish from Winsor Newton. Um, because if you start to mix blue or something into your black in an underpainting, you're kind of complicating it because you're adding more of you're adding a mixing process to it, and it's not going to be uniform all throughout. So raw umber greenish is going to be what I would suggest you use if you're going to do a verdaccio type underpainting. Hey Jonas, welcome, welcome. See how I changed my mind? At first, it was going to be kind of like a little bit of a warm brown in the background, and then I decided to heck with it. I'm gonna cut right into it and create the edge that I want to have. And now we're starting to introduce some cooler, more towards the blue, more towards the green, and darker mixtures. Your saving grace here, if you have a palette like mine, is going to be your usage of complementary colors. So, so for example, the Indian yellow, the dioxazine purple. What are we using there? Now we're mixing into the palette there. So we use the colors on the palette. That's why the palette is so useful there. And then the cadmium red. Hey Jonas. Okay, I'm glad you like the topic of the video. I actually intend to do an encore of this. I've already decided to do an encore, but even darker skin complexion. So we're gonna do an encore of this one next time. Because I realized at the end it ended up getting a little bit light. So we're gonna go even darker for next week. But I will still ask everyone what they want me to focus on, but that's what I have in mind. So now that we're adding more of these planes, you're starting to see the form start to curve a little bit there. My question is going to be, let's say something fun. Hmm. Let's see. What's this will be a different twist. What's your favorite paint color? So meaning, because I know some of you don't use oil paint. Some of you might use acrylic or gouache or watercolor. So what is your favorite paint color? Mine at the moment, it varies, but I think at the moment my favorite is probably the Flake White replacement from Gamblin. Um, but my favorite color is brown. My favorite color itself is brown, and mm, I don't know. I'd say my favorite tube of paint would probably be not on this palette, but my favorite tube of paint would let's see. Mm, Lead tin yellow is my favorite color. My favorite paint color in general, but on my palette, my favorite is the Flake White replacement. Hey Rob, you're gonna ask me to paint darker. I am gonna do that. I had that in mind. I'm gonna paint even darker, because I know that there's different skin complexions even within dark skin. So I'm gonna go darker than this one next time. They sound purple. Cool. That's my wife's favorite color. Purple, lilac. Rob CP, Cerulean Blue. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, purple is very versatile. Jada Poo, Yellow Ochre. You use it so much and everything. Yellow Ochre is very useful. Jonas, your favorite color is blue. Jay Murray, or umber greenish. Sounds like an interesting color for underpainting. Let's see, do you find that you can paint, let's see, values with it? You see so many artists use burnt sienna. Umber greenish is nice for a Verdaccio because it won't go as dark. It won't get straight black. And with an underpainting, you want it to be compressed. Typically with an underpainting, you don't want to go with the full values. You want to typically save that for color. But yes, you can paint pretty much the entire value scale except for black. You can't get straight black with it. Canvas Dancer, your favorite color is raw sienna. Cool, cool. Now, as we start to fill this in, remember the idea is that these videos should be somewhat repetitive. Because if they're somewhat repetitive, then things start to click for you. You will start to memorize and bring this into your own painting. But once again, purple and yellow are complementary colors that give you a brown that lean towards more towards the violet. But you can obtain these kinds of mixtures with a very simple palette like the Zorn palette. You can obtain these colors with a very simple palette, such as the 3-color palette, which is burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and white. Hey Steven, your favorite paint color at the moment is warm white, lead white replacement. Cool. The same with me. My favorite color on my palette currently is a lead white replacement. Also, it's the Gamblin Flake White replacement. Hey David. Now, my favorite paint color in general isn't on my palette because I'm avoiding lead. I'm not using lead anything. Eventually, I'm going to take the cadmiums out. There is a, let's see, I think Winsor Newton has cadmium replacements. That's just because I moved to an apartment, so I don't want to have to clean lead and cadmiums in the sink where I do the dishes. So that's the reason for that. We're using the darks. Here's another piece of advice when you're painting quickly, when you're painting more efficiently, when you're trying to paint more efficiently. If you know you're going to work on the painting for weeks and months on end, then the process is a little different, but go for the obvious stuff like the dark of his hair, the silhouette of the back here, that silhouette is much easier than all of those planes on his face. So I went for that first. Go for the things that are a little bit more obvious first. Hey, David. Oh yeah, yeah. That's why I'm avoiding lead. Yeah, just because I'm cleaning the. Not that I've cleaned my brushes, I probably should, but I'm kind of lazy with that. But because yeah, I moved to an apartment, and where I will eventually clean the brushes is where I do the dishes. So I'm trying to avoid the cadmiums and the lead. No, it doesn't mean that we should be we should treat these colors any differently, because all paints are somewhat toxic. So you can take something very what is thought to be very non-toxic like acrylics and then try to eat them for a while. And if you have a diet of acrylic paint, you're probably not going to be okay. So all paints in general are toxic to some extent. It's just if you take the right precautions, if you clean them and you clean the space where you clean them properly, there's really no risk at all. It's not like the toxicity of the paint is just going to jump off the canvas or the palette and attack you. It doesn't do that. Hey Jay Murray, your favorite paint color is Old Holland Magenta, which you don't use much because it's so expensive. I'm not sure if I ever used magenta. I probably have, but I can't remember it. Yeah, Old Hollands are pretty good. A little bit on the thicker side, but still pretty good paints. Hey Jonas, let's see. Would you say that if one wants to paint on the same portrait every day, should one use a little color each time rather than a lot? You can use a lot. It depends. I mean, if you're gonna work on it every day, it's not so much how much paint you use, but the drying time. So if you're gonna work on it every day and you want it to be wet each time, then you have to like adjust what type of paints you're using. If you use alkyds, you can probably work on it every day. Um, in that case, yes, you don't want to use a ton because if you use a lot of alkyd, it will take a little longer to dry than to use a thinner layer. However, there are some alkyds that even if you use a lot of paint, like I used like palette knife a long time ago with thick paint, and the next day it was touch dry. So it's different. For example, the fastest alkyd I think I've used is I don't think they sell it anymore. It's Gamblin's Griffin alkyd. That'll be touch dry in like no, that's not Gamblin. Griffin is Winsor Newton. I totally forgot which one Gamblin was. Well, they don't sell it anymore, so it's not like it matters. So Fast Matte, that's what it was called. I'll type it out for you. If you can find it, this is the fastest I've ever used. Fast Matte from Gamblin. That's the fastest. Um, but then you have Griffin, Winsor Newton. If you don't paint too thick, it'll be dry the next day. Now, if you want it to be wet each time, then you're gonna have to add something like a clove oil to it, and then you can paint as thick as you want because shoot, it's not gonna dry. It's not gonna be dry for like 2 to 3 weeks, so you can work on it that way too. So from Susan. Oh, no worries about the grayscale question. Again, please feel free to ask any art-related questions you want, everyone. No need to apologize. The more questions you ask, the more you help my YouTube channel, the more you help the live stream. So let's see. Oh, okay. So you don't mean grayscale as an underpainting. Let's see, painting a portrait of a dark-skinned person in gray. Um, I would. So since you're just starting out, Susan, I would if you want to paint, let's see, a dark skin with a gray, my suggestion would be ultramarine blue and Cadmium Orange or Burnt Sienna and Ultramarine Blue. And if you mean a grisaille, a verdaccio, and an underpainting, all basically mean the same thing. Arakish, so let's see. Let's see. All right, so if you want me to talk more about the painting, of course, let's get into it. So, I'll pause it right there. So I'm pausing it right there. And it didn't freeze. I'm still here. So let's do a little recap of what has been going on here. So in the painting, whether you're using monochrome, which would be like a grayscale, for example. So if you were to use a more like a grayscale, like an underpainting, then like I said, like the verdaccio, which would be with raw umber greenish, or just raw umber, which would be gray, or black and white, and whichever kind of underpainting you want. The process would be similar. So we started off with these planes around the dark of the back of the head, and that's kind of like our anchor. That's our supporting system there. So that's locked in place, and then what we're doing is we're curving, let's see, outwards. You see where the brush is kind of heading that way, and we're trying to nail the darks as much as we can so we can kind of work our way up into the lights. The plane change on the forehead is giving us the plane change for the frontal eminence of the skull. Let's keep the footage rolling now. And this is the side of the superciliary arch here. And this highlight gives us plain indication for the maxilla of the skull. And now we're adding more light onto the forehead. And it's going to be a little bit tricky because we're going to have kind of like two light sources. So we're going to have a little bit of light on the forehead, and then we're going to have that bright blue light, which is probably going to be coming soon for the rim lighting on the forehead. So a little recap of what's been going on here for the painting tutorial. So Daesun, would you ever think about Portrait Artist of the Year? Would you ever enter? I doubt I would get into that. I don't know if I would. I think that's in Europe. I'm not sure, but I don't know if I have enough connections to be honest. But yeah, I mean that would be fun. That would be nice to enter into any kind of portrait competition. I mean, I would like to be in Portrait Society as well. That would be fun. Probably with my more long-term paintings. So there we're mixing, let's move my box. So we're mixing ultramarine blue, white, and phthalo turquoise. Ultramarine blue, white, phthalo turquoise with the palette knife. And yep, the plane indication there is key. I do. I'm glad that you see that there. So we're using the palette knife to add the rim lighting on, and it's relatively, I'd say, just the right time. It could have been added a little bit earlier. We're now 30 minutes in, which is still a pretty fast pace, but now with the palette knife. The reason I'm using the palette knife is so I can get the cleanest and the thickest mixture of paint. And this is for the rim light. Again, there's a bluish light indication of it, and it's on the rim, so the corner of the side of his head. And there's an influence of the bluish color all around the light of the head. So this could be from some kind of bright fluorescent light. Some kind of blah, I can't speak. Let's say, I don't know really what to tell you. It's a bluish light. This would not be in the old master paintings. This wouldn't exist back then because they needed LED lights. That's what it is. It's an LED light of some sort in the background. So this is tricky. But if you use what I'm showing you, it's not so bad. And it creates the rim light, bright rim light effect there. And that will remain there throughout the duration of the painting. now we're going to start to, like I said, work around. So we're going for the dark of the clothing that the model's wearing. And I'm thinking very much Rembrandt. So if Rembrandt were to be presented with this subject, I think Rembrandt would probably make similar decisions. So going in with those kind of more loose and broad planes, and then going in with the vignette of the background. And now we're going to go and reevaluate the background. All right, so now I'm going to ask another question for everyone. We've got about 35 minutes in here. So let's say let's do it this way. Here's a question for everyone. Let's have fun with this one. Remember, this is a live stream, and I'm on here same time every week. So 10 a.m. watch 10:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time every week with one of these videos. So who is your favorite painter of all time? My answer to this question changes from time to time, but I'd say Rembrandt is probably my favorite painter of all time. So now that we added more of that blue misty effect, almost like a fog, like in the background to create more dimension, we're going back to the back side of the hair. See how I'm using that as kind of like a key area to go back in towards the skin. So Rob CP Vermeer for you. Stephen Caravaggio. Oh, don't worry, David. If someone asked me how to spell Bouguereau, I would misspell his name, even after all these years. Jetapu, Bob Ross. Without him, you would have never started painting. Awesome, awesome. Bob Ross did have a really magnificent impact in art history, I will say. Now going in more with the darks, again, as everyone answers the questions, I went in with green and red, but this time I went in with, that is my Verona Green Earth, which is in place for Viridian, so just use Viridian. Use Viridian and Alizarin Permanent. You could use Alizarin Crimson, but I like Alizarin Permanent better. So Alizarin Permanent and Viridian gives you a nice warmish dark. Chedapu, let's see, you don't like painting landscapes, but he gave you the confidence. Good, good. Toxic Gaming, some tips for beginning artists. My biggest advice for you would be I'm basically giving everyone these demos for free on YouTube. My advice for beginning artists has now changed. What I would suggest is you paint or draw along with me with these videos. I'm creating something hopefully special for everyone because these are going to be paintings for you to recreate, but you will also have this video format to do it. So again, I'm posting it on my Instagram, the finished picture. So my suggestion would be to go through these videos, the ones that are more recent with these live streams, the way that I'm filming them, and just recreate them. It doesn't matter what you use. Use pencil. If you only have pencil, use pencil. Use like if you only have acrylic, use acrylic, but I suggest oil paint if you want to do that, and recreate these. The idea is that it's similar to how painting and drawing has been taught throughout antiquity, which is through the bark drawing, through the master copy, through the painting of or drawing of a cast, but now you have something that's well, something that's actually captured through its entirety. Well, another thing, toxic gaming would be uh, let's see, self-portraits would be a good one. So J. Murray, Van Gogh is your favorite. That's good. That's good. Van Gogh is pretty awesome. Rob, have I seen a documentary called Tim's Vermeer? I haven't seen it. I've heard of it, and I will say Vermeer did not use mechanical methods for his drawings. What he used was what was known back in the day, um, which also involved a pinhole, putting a pinhole with a string to make sure that perspective lines went where they needed to go relative to a fixed focal point. But Vermeer did not go a little pixel per pixel like that. He just didn't. That's, but I'm not discrediting Tim's Vermeer. I, from what I heard, he doesn't quite have an understanding of how painters paint or how the old masters painted. But no offense to him. I mean, he's from what I heard, because I haven't seen it. From what I heard, it's false. At least from what I heard. So from Jonas, you would say Rembrandt. Oh, thank you. Thank you for adding me in there. Thank you. So Canvas Dancer. Oh, cool. I haven't heard this one. Last name Kollwitz. Not sure how to pronounce it. Oh, cool. Thanks for adding that. Now for the demo that you have here, we're starting to now add our first little glimpse of light, the light of the sclera. 40 minutes in, I did deliberately hold back with the sclera. And that's because it starts to become more personal when you start to add the sclera, which is the light of the eye. Once you start to add that in, you better be certain that you know exactly where it's going to go, because it introduces an awkward stage that is very unfriendly to the eye. Now, if you're not too worried about the awkward stage, then you have more experience than I do. And I have 14 years experience, and what, 5 years now, or 6, I don't even know, 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So I'm approaching 6 years of experience now with video painting work. And again, 14 years of painting. So I will tell you the awkward stage is not so bad if you hold off on the white of the eye, the sclera. So hold off until you're certain of it. So from Rob CP, so you wrote exactly what I thought. Why would there be a repair hole at the vanishing point? If he would have traced everything. There you go. Yeah, see that there's a nice logic for why. Yeah, exactly. So from Jetapu, let's see. You're getting into oil painting. Let's see. You got burnt umber, cad yellow, phthalo blue, ultramarine alizarin crimson, titanium white. What other colors would you recommend for a starting set of oil colors? So let's see. So every palette should consist of the primaries. Every full color palette, full Full, full color palette. So cadmium red, cadmium yellow, and a blue. Say ultramarine blue or cobalt blue is the primary blue. So you have your burnt umber, you have your, let's see, so you have your cadmium yellow, your ultramarine blue, alizarin. I would suggest you get a cadmium red. That would be my suggestion for you there. I don't see a cadmium red. A lot of people will use burnt umber as their red, but I would suggest it. And Alizarin Crimson won't get quite as opaque as Cadmium Red. So Jada Poo, I would suggest adding Cadmium Red to your collection there. And then you're good to go. From what I see, you're good to go. So from Canvas Dancer, so Kollwitz was a German artist depicting war and poverty of the world wars, working class. Oh, cool. Definitely gotta check it out. So from Diane, another name I can't pronounce, but it's in the comments now. So very cool, very cool. Thank you for answering the questions here. So once again, with the color mixtures, now we're adding some light, rim lighting for the hair. So this one's very tricky because it does go gray, but it goes bluish. So there you see the ultramarine blue with the influence of white and mixing into the color that's already there. So the wet on wet approach is something I'm still trying to perfect after all this time, but I found that the touch actually matters a lot. So a lighter touch makes it less bright if you're painting a light into a dark wet on wet. Oh, no problem, Jada Poo, no problem. Now again, I keep going back to the color mixtures. They are essentially the same. So Dioxazine purple, Indian yellow, cadmium yellow, cadmium orange, ultramarine blue, and white. It gives you these mixtures. With a lighter skin complexion, it would be the same colors, just with more white and potentially more green. But now what we're doing is we're starting to subdivide these shapes. And we switch to the Sable brushes. So I'm using bristle brushes and Sable brushes. These are pure red Sable brushes by the same brand as my bristle brushes, which is Silver Brush. This is the size 4 cat's tongue shape, not made from cat's tongues. And this one is a size 2 filbert bristle brush. They are all the same type of bristle brush. Volker. Oh wow. So let's see. So this painter you're mentioning has a whole museum for their work in Germany. Wow. Awesome. Thanks for the info. Now we have it in the live stream for everyone to see. Very cool. Now I'm adding a touch of warmth and at the same time I'm straightening out the nose. The angle of the nose is a little bit too curved. So I'm straightening it out. And again, don't worry about likeness of any sorts other than the likeness of the finished result of the painting. So that needed to get a little bit more straight. I'll tell you why I did that. The reason I did that was because my own nose has a curve like that. And I deliberately, with everyone, I try to make their nose different from mine because my nose, I don't want to impose my nose onto other people unless they have a nose similar to mine. Like Rembrandt's nose was actually similar to mine, and that it's kind of like Super Mario, like it's kind of wide on the front and a lump for over here. Oh, cool. So thanks for mentioning that Canvas dancer with all the empathy and that. Yeah, I gotta look this person up. Now we're going with the silhouette with the Sable brush. Sable brushes are nice because it gives you more control It holds more paint than synthetics, but it gives you a nice and light and precise touch like you would get with the synthetic. Now for these darks, alizarin permanent and green are going to be the mixtures that I would use with a touch more of the alizarin to give more of that kind of warm dark underneath the eyelid and for the wing of the nose. Oh, cool. Yeah, I can copy and paste it. Colwitz. I trust that my internet is good enough. I can open a tab and not lose everyone. Yep, I got it on my Google search. Let's check it out. Wow, lots of drawings. So these were based on war. Yeah, I can see that. Wow. I see a lot of pain and frustration in this. Cool. Now it's on one of my tabs, so thanks everyone for sharing that. So let's see from Jonas. I'm glad you liked the portrait. Yep. Please give the video a thumbs up, everyone, if you like it. So let's see. So from Steven, looks like I painted your Roman nose. Yeah, I wanted to change it up. Yeah, a little bit more straight. So from Rob, let's see. What is it about Sargent's paintings that everyone says he was the one of the best? You do love his paintings, especially Lady Agnew. Um, Sargent, what is it about his painting? Well, for one, he was very influenced by Velázquez, Diego Velázquez, in that kind of like loose, brushy kind of way. But his form and his drawing was incredible. Like, if he wanted to, he could have painted as tight as Bouguereau because he had that academic training. But Sargent, he deliberately made his paintings look more brushy, more active, which is more humbling, I think. And I think people tend to kind of, I don't know, that they like things that are more humble. And it's like I could paint that kind of feeling. Then when we try to paint it, well, then there's all this complexity to it. I think he's more known for that, for his way of making a very complicated subject like a portrait look more simple and like it was done easily, like all at once. But he didn't do it that way. He painted in multiple layers, um, wet on wet painting. So that's the biggest reason I think why he's as famous as he is. But he was also famous during his lifetime too. He was kind of a superstar. He everyone of the day, every notable person of the day had to have a Sargent painting of themselves. So he was also famous during his time. That fame just kind of it died down a little bit towards the years because of modernism and all that stuff. But recently, I think he's a big motivation. Another reason is I think because of modern day realist painting really um, I like this question. Modern day realist painting gets a lot of influence from Sargent. So if you look at Jeremy Lipking, he's like the biggest superstar I think alive today in the realist painting world. Jeremy Lipking takes a lot of influence from Sargent, and even before him, um, what's his name? Richard, can't remember his name. I should know these names. Can't remember. But a lot of modern day realist painting gets a lot of influence from Sargent. So that's another reason why he's so popular these days. Now we're adding more fullness to the bottom lip. And now we're adding more of a deep red for the dark. So alizarin permanent is a really good color to have for skin tones, for the lighter skin tones and for the darker skin tones. Yeah, there we go, Richard Schmid. Yeah, Richard Schmid, thank you. I don't know, my brain, like, too much stuff going on at once, but Richard Schmid was before Lipking, and he had a lot of influence from Sargent. Another one is Everett Raymond Kinsler. Everett Raymond Kinsler had a lot of influence from Sargent. So Richard Schmid, Everett Raymond Kinsler, even Nelson Shanks. Some of his demos have a lot of influence from Sargent. So that's another reason why he's so popular these days. Rob CP, you don't know if he could have painted like Bouguereau if he wanted. He could. He could. He went to the École de Beaux-Arts. So he went to a little known fact. Before he studied with Carlos Duran, he apprenticed with Carlos Duran for 4 years. But before that, he did like the full academy training, the École de Beaux-Arts. So he had the right training. He could have been painting just like Bouguereau if he wanted to, but that's not the look that he wanted to have in his paintings. I too have ventured off in a similar tangent. I don't want my paintings to have like a super finished, super controlled look. I'm going for more improv, a little bit more loose, and trying to turn that into a video format like what you're seeing here. So my painting definitely has some Sargent influence, but different in the sense that I'm trying to incorporate the video with it. So let's see from Stephen. Best Sargent painting you have seen, Officers of the Great War. I have seen pictures of that one. I know which one you're talking about. Well, I'm glad you got to see it in person. So from Dayson, Daniel Gerhardt says, brilliant. Another one I gotta look up. Thank you, thank you. Hey David, thanks for watching from England. Let's see. In general, yeah, I suggest bristle brushes for oil painting, definitely. Let's see. Hey Dayson, yeah, very painterly. But yeah, about the brushes, I do suggest starting with bristles and finishing um, with sables at the end. Sables give you more control. Of course, you can't cover as much, but more control. My favorite shape of uh, finesse brush would be the cat's tongue. Not made from cat's tongues, of course, but it's just called a cat's tongue. It's cat's tongue shape. Hey Jadapu, thanks for watching. I will see you on the next live stream. So David, with synthetic, yeah, you can finish the painting with synthetic if you want. You can do the whole painting with synthetics if you want to. But synthetics don't really hold as much paint as bristles or sables. Now we're adding more finesse, more control, and this is where we start to subdivide the shapes even further. So we're adding more of the realist touch to it. Hey, Christopher. Oh, thanks, Rob. So remember, everyone, next week we're going to do an encore of this. So I'm going to look for even darker skin complexion. Is that what I'm trying to do? What I intend to do with portraiture as a whole is I'm trying to change something, and if you're new to these videos, what I'm trying to do is well, for one, I'm trying to make this knowledge as accessible as it can be throughout the world, but I'm also trying to have more variety in my portraiture. The old masters, they were amazing, but they lacked diversity in their portraiture. So that's something I'm trying to change. I'm trying to add more diversity. More light for the eye socket. So from Jay Murray, let's see. Do I have any advice on developing drawing skills? Uh, do I follow Loomis or Bridgman? Oh, thank you. I went to this school. I'll tell you the name of the school I went to. It's called Studio in Caminati. This is where I am not really that self-taught. I've been lucky to have my teachers, and this is the and I'm gonna write down his name for you. John DeMartin. He's a published author. He has a book on drawing now, and I got to study with him in person at the school called Studio in Caminati. Most of my drawing comes from him and Stephen Early. He taught me a whole lot about drawing. So if you look at John DeMartin and Stephen Early, if you type them up, you will see where a lot of my drawing influence has come from. Now, when it comes to methods, um, when it comes to drawing methods, I typically stick with more of a shape oriented, not so much like formula or technique, but I go more for shape. I look at things as a series of shapes. So from Rob, would it be possible for me to demonstrate difficult hairstyles such as plaited hair? I'm gonna look that one up right now. Plaited hair. Plaited hair. Plaited hair. I'm getting braided hair from that. So it's a type of braided hair. Yeah, we can do that. Sure. Yeah, we can do that. From Days On reminds me of a rugged version of Carlton. Not sure who that is. Christopher, let's see. He would like to show me a painting. Well, cool. So for everyone, so if you want to share your paintings for free, check out the Facebook group that is linked in the description box of the video. It's the Facebook group created for viewers of these live streams. For anyone that wants to get feedback and advice and instruction from me, definitely check out my online classes, which are $10 a month, which allows you to send up to 2 images to me every week. And I give you advice on your images weekly. But those are your options. You've got options there, Christopher. What's going on, Hardjot? Welcome, welcome. Hardjot, now that you're here, do you know any painting groups in this area? Because I tried to look up the Torpedo Factory, but I couldn't find any open studios. I'm contemplating hiring a model to come here, but I'd have to move my pool table, and I don't want to do that. So, you know any painting groups in the area, that would be much appreciated, Hardjot. Let's see, from Rob, plaited hair is a bit like a rope. Yeah, I can look that up. Hey, hard drop. At the moment, no, I don't have any in-person classes. I actually had to cancel Yellow Barn because the driving was just too much. Thanks, hard drop. You can be the bottom. Cool, cool. I kind of need a studio though because my space is a little bit cramped. I think to have a model here. So yeah, everyone that's in the area, I am not teaching in person anymore. The Yellow Barn where I was going to teach in Glen Echo, Maryland, it's just the traffic was just too much. It was too much. It would have been an hour something minutes to drive, like what is it, like 20 miles? Not even 20 miles. I think it was 30 something miles, an hour something. It was no. Anyone that knows Northern Virginia knows Northern Virginia traffic. It was too much. Too much risk for my car, to be honest. And now we're putting in more structure for the side of the superciliary arch of the frontal ridge of the skull, which is right here. And these are the last adjustments, really. We've got 4 minutes left on this one. Again, I'm trying to deliberately make my painting style a little bit more loose, a little bit more spontaneous. In the past, this would have probably taken me 3 different videos to do it. But I'm trying to be a little bit more spontaneous. Sharper edge for the bottom lip. So the idea between the idea with the spontaneity is that you can be a little bit more intuitive. You start to build your intuition a little bit more. So Harjot, you think there's something in Leesburg? Is it like a painting group or? I miss going to Zoll. That was one of my favorite places to go, but that's like 2 hours away from me now. Oh, good, Jonas. I'm glad you like the looseness of it too. And there it is. I have moved it, but the wait, there's more. Once this ends, I'm gonna do a summary of what just went down. So I will scroll through from the beginning to the end. So we're adjusting the ear with this camera angle. So what happened was I adjusted it, and then I realized, dang it, the ear is missing part of it. What is that? The helix of the ear, which is the inside. The anti-helix should be the outside, I believe. So these are the last minute adjustments for the ear. Now you see how different it is when I adjust the camera. So it is wider, a little bit wider with the adjustment of the camera. And the camera was like right now I can't paint like this. I can't paint like this throughout the entire thing because the camera is right in front of my face. Hey Rob, oh my hand is so steady you would have um used a maul stick. I would have used the maul stick, but I was kind of lazy uh, at this point. But thanks for the compliment. Hey Arjot, yeah, we could possibly do plein air in Alexandria when the weather gets warmer. So you'll post in some art groups. A winery, that would be cool. A wine or paint night or a paint day. I'm thinking more of like an art group like Zoll. If there was like a Zoll somewhere out here. I mean, I know Robert Liberace is in this area, but I doubt he would respond to me if I tried to contact him. He's so busy. now we have the helix of the ear and the anti-helix. So from Canvas Dancer, do I ever use cold wax medium? It leaves brush marks that seem looser. It can also be used to finish in place of varnish, but you haven't tried that. I've used a wax type of a medium in the past. I don't remember what it was called, but I have used something of like a wax medium, and it was supposed to be to reduce glare a long time ago. There we are. So that is the last adjustment of the ear, but no, I haven't used cold wax medium on its own. So that is the finished painting, and like I said, there we have it. The photograph, of course, looks different because the photograph is taken under different lighting than what you see here in the video. So the end result looks probably more like the one to the right, but you'll have that posted on my Instagram shortly. So after this ends, and if you're watching this as a pre-recorded video, then it should already be on my Instagram. So remember, the purpose for these videos is to create a series of videos for you to follow and paint along with and to learn from. And the final image will be the one that you should use for your reference to recreate these. And it's just like the old master studies. I'm not calling myself an old master, but what I'm saying is that these are going to be paintings for you to recreate on your own because you have the entire footage and you have the picture of the painting for you. Remember, if you want feedback from me with your artwork for $10 a month, please check out my online classes on my Patreon. Now let's go scroll through. I keep saying scroll, and I think it's because I've been watching Vikings too much on Hulu. So I'm going to scroll all the way back. In the beginning, there was a blank canvas, and then it wasn't. So then we toned it with Ultramarine Blue and Cadmium Red. We thinned it out with mineral spirits, and throughout the entire process, everything here was wet on wet. Everything here was wet on wet. So the reason that I toned it gray, remember, was so that my lights look like lights and my darks look like darks. Because this is a linen, it acts differently than cotton. So this linen won't be as absorbent as the cotton, so the paint will kind of glide around a little bit more loosely. Now, in terms of the colors, I'm going to once again explain that to everyone. Thanks, Rob CP. Thank you. Thanks, Jonas. Hey, Dyson, of course you'll be able to paint like this in under 2 hours. It's all about repetition, and having the right training. So the mixtures, again, on the palette. Let's go back to the very first skin color mixture. And it was probably that one on the nose. So what did we do? Let's backtrack. Let's let it play from there. Let's backtrack. What did we do for that shape? Hopefully, yeah, there we go. Purple. Let's scroll through a little more. Let's see, it was... Well, I can tell you, it was purple, white, yellow, orange, and blue, and with different ratios. And then we established, just like any other painting, those big planes. Establish those big planes. Hey Steven, you just started watching Vikings. I won't spoil anything. But it is a good show. It is a really, really cool show. Now we're adding more of the light. So this was the part where we completed basically the effect of light. And from this point, it took 30 minutes to go from this point into more of the subtlety. And that's when we switched into the smaller brushes, the size 2 filbert. And then we switched to the Sables. So the Sables allowed us to have more control. And with very decisive marks at the right spot, We created something that will look dimensional from a distance, but close up it will still look very much very loose. We started to add the planes for the maxilla, the side of the skull, superciliary arch of the skull, and more subtlety, and there you have the end result of this painting. So again, the main topic was painting darker skin tones, and you saw, and I was pretty much repeating the same thing over and over again, which is your complementary colors. So for the darker areas, you could use alizarin and green like Viridian, or you can use yellow and dioxazine purple to create a nice kind of bluish brown. And then you could use red and green to create a warmer brown. Adding white to it will get you these skin complexities. But I did use a cooler light, so next time we will paint even darker skin color. So there's going to be an encore of this one. AJ Murray. Oh, good. I'm glad you found John DeMartin's book. Yeah, he is an excellent teacher. And the drawings that he can do in just 5 minutes, the figure sketches that he can do look just like Raphael drawings, but even better. It's just amazing what John DeMartin can do and everything that he knows. Well, thank you. I hope that you will check out my online classes. So once again, everyone, thank you so much for watching. This is the point where I'm going to ask if there are any last minute questions. So any last minute questions? Oh, thank you, Canvas Dancer. Thank you, Stephen. Well, thanks for watching, Rob. All right, so it looks like there are no last minute questions. All right. So it looks like there are no last minute questions. Remember, everyone, if you want to take your online art education with me further, please check out my online classes on my Patreon, which is linked in the description box of the video. And once again, here is my schedule. This is my schedule for you to see. In red is the YouTube public live, which is at actually at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Monday mornings is basic level lessons. Friday is intermediate to advanced level lessons. And Tuesdays, 2:30 p.m., I upload a virtual classroom video with feedback for my online students. They send me their images of their artwork. You have the ability to send it. Obviously, you don't have to send it every week if you don't want to, but you have that option there to get input from me. And then, of course, I have the group Zoom tiers that are in blue. Oh, it looks like there was a comment there from, let's see, Diane. When is wet on wet, do you use any mediums? When it is wet on wet. No, I don't use any mediums. I mean, you could use a medium. Um, if it's wet on wet, if it's going to be done in one day, you could pretty much use almost any medium you want. But Typically, I don't need it. I just thin out the paint with odorless mineral spirits. Oh, thanks, Diane. Typically, you don't need it. Just mineral spirits and paint should be all you would need for at least a painting like this one. All right, so looks like there are no last minute questions. So once again, thank you all so much for watching. I wish you the very best in all of your artwork, and I will see you on the next one.